Flanny friends, let's talk about a man named Indiana. I grew up with him and fondly remember the original three with The Last Crusade, a personal favorite, and then they made a fourth one with Aliens and the Mutt, which I'm fairly certain is a sick joke considering Indiana got his name from a dog. But anyways, it wasn't the most beloved of the indie franchise to say the least when it came out. Gone was the mysticism and practical effects of the older ones, and in was aliens and something that makes the Disney Tarzan scenes sadly look quite realistic by comparison. But, at least that was it, right? Right? Well, no. Because apparently Harrison Ford wanted one last go at it, and as it was reported, that was what got him to return to Star Wars as Han Solo. The promise of putting on the fedora one last time. Great. So now I get to see one beloved character die and another rot away. Thank you for that, Harrison. Before we get into it, if you like action and adventure, as well as staying up to date on the latest news and reviews going on in games and entertainment, please like and subscribe, as each subscription helps to stop Hitler. Now then, let's get into it. Harrison Ford, the man, the myth, the legend himself. I feel like to review the movie is really to review Indiana Jones himself, because that's why we keep coming back. We come to see him punch Nazis, save ancient treasures, and look cool while doing it. Only problem is, Harrison Ford is currently 80. He said in interviews that the stunt directors tried to keep giving him points on how to ride a horse or do certain scenes, and he told them no. That he is an old man and Indy should look and act like one, and at a certain point, it's time to hang up the hat, right? The start of this, and spoilers ahead, this is your warning. Why do all our favorite franchises want to show us how miserable our favorite characters have become? Like, why is that a prerequisite nowadays? If we come back to an old star character, they're inevitably miserable. I don't want to see a sad old man Indy. I want to have fun with these characters I haven't seen in a bit, not be hit with the stark reality that not even my favorite fictional characters can get a good life, so what chance does Flinty have? But let me break it down a bit. An older Indy absolutely can work. Just, if he is not physically able to do what he used to, make the conflict be something more mental or emotional. Somewhere in this, there are really interesting ideas, by putting him in the 60s and having him feel like a man out of time. Somewhere in there could have been something more, but instead the few people who were watching it with me left saying, maybe Kingdom of the Crystal Skull wasn't such a bad send-off. Harrison Ford brings the charm and gravitas to Indy that he always does, but everything just feels a step slower. The action, save for one or two scenes, is mostly CGI, and understandably so considering Harrison's age, but it loses so much because of it. That being said, one area that CGI did work somewhat well at was the de-aging effect to give us young Indy. It still has the uncanny valley feel around the mouth area when he talks, but when he doesn't and just has to move, smirk, or act like Indy, it's definitely a step up from what I saw in The Flash. Though, for some reason, they did decide to do nothing to Harrison Ford's voice, so you still have a gruff old Indy voice coming out of a 30-year-old body, and yeah, it's pretty laughable. So, if not for Indy, what about our villains and supporting cast? Well, you have Mads Mikkelsen as a former Nazi, Jürgen Voller, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge as Indy's goddaughter, Helena Shaw. Mads is chilling as always when he needs to be, although I found his evil plan somewhat ridiculous. He wants to go back and replace Hitler and basically be a better Hitler than Hitler was, with his knowledge of how the war played out. Which even Indy at one point explains there are better ways to do it, but mostly I'm annoyed because early on we were shown a scene where his character absolutely should have died. Like, he's gone. Goodbye. No more Nazi. Only for him to show up later and there was no explanation as to why he wasn't dead. The entire movie I kept thinking, surely this is going to play into it, surely it's going to be a factor, and then they just do anything with it, so I guess I just don't understand how trains and physics work. Anyway, next we have Phoebe, who does a charming job with Helena Shaw and brings a bit more vigor into the series as a whole. And she's fine. She does a fine job. It's sort of the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull all over again in the aspect of, we have an aging Indy, let's team him up with a young upstart who might be the one who takes over the mantle for it. I'm honestly not against getting an actor to either do young indie style movies. There's plenty of actors who could do it. Or if not that, then have someone carry on his legacy. The issue is, if they do it, they have to do it right the first time. I love ancient treasure movies, but Disney just did a National Treasure TV series I was excited for, and that got canceled after the first season. So if they are wanting to give us something else besides indie, I hope they take note of that for the future of Indiana Jones himself. As for the plot of the film, I honestly expected more from the trailers. Going in, I didn't know the young indie scenes were all up front and just a flashback. I thought Dial of Destiny and Back in Time and we were going to get old indie going back in time to maybe undo some of the mistakes of the past, or right or wrong, or something of that nature, which is sort of toyed around with, but just done so poorly due to an off-screen character death that it just briefly brought up and just felt like an excuse to clean up some narrative threads and to get us to a depressed Indy. While the ending of this film does leave Indy in a better place than it started off at, honestly, yeah, maybe Crystal Skull wasn't that bad in retrospect. So my overall thoughts? Guys, I sadly didn't like it. It tears down a character I loved growing up with, and by the end, they still really aren't the same. This is an adventure that didn't need to exist, a fact that the box office numbers are already proving. People either are tired of history's mysteries or tired of beloved franchises coming back as only a shell of what they were. Either way, this is a movie that might be best left forgotten to the sands of time. But what are your guys' thoughts? Were you excited for a new indie movie? If so, what did you think? Did it live up to your expectations, or should maybe indie hang up the hat and whip? That's all I've got for now, guys. Until next time. Bye!